What's going on, everybody? Gorgeous George checking in on a Tuesday night. Keyword is Tuesday. I love and I hate Tuesdays, and I'll tell you why. Because it's kind of like everyone else's Monday. Just a lot of things wrap up for me on Tuesday. We got fights on Saturday, and then discussion and prep on Sunday, leading to Monday, where we present a live show and the MMA Junkie radio show, right? So, but then the rankings are my baby, and they tie me up, but usually by Tuesday night, we're done. In fact, they're live on the site on MMAJunkie.com every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. So they're there right now. And I do get feedback, and there is discussion. It's not just me. The editors have started chiming in and helping things out in the last year or so, and I think they've convinced me a little to evolve, right? Because, I always tell people rankings are subjective, and so there really isn't a right or a wrong. Now, that doesn't mean you can be crazy, right, and make the world champion the number 5 person in the weight class. That would be ridiculous. But I'm talking about like that razor thin line where you're discussing 3 and 4, 10 and 11, 9 and 8, whatever. Some of it's just subjective. Everyone has a different criteria. I'll tell you, one of the big components for me is head-to-head. But for others, it's, the record. And then when you get into champion talk, it's title defenses. So, I mean, it's really a lot of fun. And it's a fun discussion you can have with any hardcore fan, another pundit, fighters. Of course, they're always going to side with themselves. But regardless, here we are, right? And so I guess I thought I wanted to explain the method to my madness of what happens on Tuesdays. It really all starts on Saturday night. I already started looking to see what kind of moves would be made, right? Because I know who's fighting who and what they're ranked going in. And so I know what kind of weight the contest is going to carry, right? The winner, the loser. But there are different components, like I said, to a fight itself, the result, the finish, and that all matters because there are a lot of records that are similar out there between fighters, especially if they faced each other before and they're 1-1, or if they, even worse, they haven't faced each other before. So you almost have to go to the different criterias out there, right? Because again, I'm a big head-to-head guy. A, B, B, it's going to take a lot of convincing for you to tell me that B is better than A. So it's right there, right? But anyway, I start studying all that on Saturday to see what the possible moves are, and then on Sunday I start taking better looks. Any fights that I might have missed, or just I want to glance over again. It can be easy, and at the same time, let's not make it rocket science either. Pretty basic, who faced who, and what is the cost going to be for the loser, and what's the promotion going to be like for the winner. So take, for example, the main event had Lone'er Kavanagh against Brandon Moreno. And going into the fight, Lone'er Kavanagh was unranked. Now, he's 3-1 in the UFC, 10-1 overall. But really, everything everyone remembered was his previous fight where he lost to Charles Johnson. And this really made it tricky for me. Because I also don't like huge jumps. I like to bring a fighter in slowly and then have them exit early. And what that means is, on the receiving end, I also don't like to just abandon the ship either because someone takes a loss or two, especially if you've made it to the top. When you're at the top, you're banging against the best. So there's no shame in 2 losing to 1 or 2 losing to 3. You guys are the second or third or first best in the world at your weight class. You matter. You're something. Anyway, Brandon Moreno was, former champion. He comes in at number 6 to this fight, and Lone'er Kavanagh wins. Pretty decisive. It was a decision, not a finish, but still, I got to react. All right? Head-to-head. Isn't that what I just finished saying, like the last 3 minutes, right? So does he now jump to 6 and Moreno fall back? Well, yes and no, because every case is different, and that's what makes rankings exciting for me every week, because there really are different reasons to make moves, right? And you're actually factoring into a lot of people's lives. I mean, I know the UFC's got their rankings, Stepology's got their rankings. I think we've had ours just as long as theirs or whatever. And the people that compile them, there's no way they're more experienced than me because I've been doing this for longer than anyone else. So Going back to what I said, there ain't no really he's the best, she's the best, whatever. Remember, it's subjective, right? But I am the most experienced. So, and plus, I got an ego. I am the best, at least in my mind. Anyway, what are we gonna do here, right? What are we gonna do with Lone'er Kavanagh, who's unranked? How's he gonna jump all our honorable mentions at USA Today Sports and MMA Junkie, where we go 1 through 15 with 3 honorable mentions? How am I gonna jump those 3, and then everyone from 15 to 7? I gotta explain myself, right? So we'll take a look at the flyweight rankings. You can go to MMAJunkie.com, just go to the tabs at the top where you can find the rankings and find the drop down for the flyweights. And in the flyweight division, it's pretty basic. Joshua Van, the champion's #1, Alexander Pantoja, Manel Kape, Brandon Moreno, Tatsuro Taira, and then Brandon Moreno. So who's holding Lone'er Kavanagh from coming through all the way to the top? None of the honorable mentions: Tim Elliott, Alex Perez, Rafael Esteban. I don't want to lose you guys, but trust me, 11 through 15, Kai Kara France, Tagir Ulanbekov, either they're all coming off losses or they just haven't beaten a #6 guy who happens to be a world champ. And remember, it was in Mexico City too. It was a hell of an away game because fighters don't do well in certain countries. Certain countries, I mean, really hold court very well. And in fact, the Mexicans went 6-2 on Saturday. It just so happens that the 2 of the bigger fights, Daniel Zellhuber against King Green, and then this one we're discussing, it didn't go their way. So nothing wrong with 6-2. But yeah, I had to look at it and say, what are we doing here, right? Now, there was one guy that tripped me up a little bit, and it was Kyoji Horiguchi. He's the number 7 guy in the world coming in. But listen, this guy was 7-1 in his first stint in the UFC. That was like 7-8 years ago, right? The UFC, I don't know why, maybe when they were dismantling the flyweight division, he went in a different direction. He became a world champion in Japan, over at Bellator. He even did it at 135 and 125. The guy's a stud. Then he comes back, and he's been doing great, right? So that's why he's already back where we kind of left him off years ago, because he's proven himself in 2 different weight classes, but most importantly here at 125 in the UFC. And so now Kyoji Horiguchi, I don't want him to pay the price. So I moved him to #6, Lone'er to #7, and I brought in Brandon Moreno to #8. So Moreno loses 2 spots, Kavanagh gets one hell of a promotion, and Kyoji Horiguchi is just the right guy in the right place at the right time. So, look, Muhammad Mokaev, he's not even in the UFC. Amir Albazi, he's taken some L's as of late. Nobody could stop Lone'er Kavanagh from getting to the front of the line. So that's just the way things worked out. So, like I say, it's fun for me to, figure it out, break it down, and then have the ability to explain it. But I want to hear from you guys as well. Get into the comment section and tell me if you disagree with the move. We can discuss it. I got thick skin. You want to go, hardcore, fine. You know who I am. I don't know who you are, so you can say what you want about me. It won't bother me. But if you want to just have a good, healthy discussion, I prefer that. Let's talk about it. What would you have done, right? Again, Moreno was 6 going in. Now he's #8. Kavanagh was unranked. Now he's #7. #7. And then Kyoji Horiguchi was #7. He moves up to #6. So that was kind of our big move on MMA Junkie this week. And, like I said, I do this every Tuesday. I mean, unless there aren't fights and there's no reason to dig into it. But I do it all the time. I love it. And I've done it since 2013. So we're going on, 13 years now. And I will throw elbows with anyone if you really, really want to figure this out and see what's what. And guess what? I also don't have the world's biggest ego. I can tell you how many times somebody's pointed out something to me and I thought, you know what? Let me take that into consideration. Because sometimes you're writing a fence and you can't make a decision. So sometimes that input I get from the editors actually helps me make a good decision, right? And like I say, as the sport evolves, you have to expect that everything has to evolve, including your performance and your ability to rank professional fighters. And I always try and keep that open mind as well. If you want to know some of the other moves, real quick, David Martinez, #14 coming in. He beat #12 Marlon Vera. I basically brought Martinez in from 14 to 12, but Vera, he just dropped from 12 to 13, and catching a stray was #13, Montel Jackson, who now goes to 14, where David Martinez was. And Vera's on a cold streak. He's lost 5 of 6 and 4 in a row. But guys, it has been a murderer's row for him. And it was the way it ended too. In round 3, he looked good. He was strong. That's been That's been a problem with Marlon Vera is he just reacts and waits too late to get going, and I think that's going to, basically cost him the aspirations of ever being a world champion, because now he's just going to fall down in the rankings, and the names he faces won't be, the top of the heap. At women's bantamweight, Eileen Perez, number 7 going in. She faces number 10, Macy Chiasson. This one was tricky. Perez, though, 6 in a row. She's on a roll. And Ketlen Vera, along with Irene Aldana, they've been 500 fighters the last 36 months. I call that the sweet spot, right, in rankings. The last 36 months, 3 years. I'll do the math for you. But Ketlen hasn't even been that active. She hasn't fought in 18 months. She's 2-2. Vieira is 3-3. They both have beaten Macy Chiasson, but what have you done for me lately? Somehow the rankings have to reflect what's happening right here, right now, right? And Eileen Perez, like I say, she doesn't have some of the skins on the wall that the other two ladies have, but still, 6 in a row is impressive. So that's why she got moved up to number 5. The other two got pushed down a little bit. Now, Macy Chiasson, I knocked her down 2 spots from 10 to 12. Why? Because Jackie Cavalcante and Jocelyn Edwards are on fire. All right, they're smoking fools, especially that Jocelyn Edwards. She gets finishes in women's MMA, and those aren't too common. So look out for those ladies in the future. This is the division that's very top heavy with Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes. If they ever fight, who knows? But somebody's got to start replacing them. And like I say, Eileen Perez is handling her business right now, so she deserves that little bump up. Anyway, look, so that's kind of what my Tuesday's like. I'm really happy that it's kind of now over. I can kind of chillax a little bit. We got the UFC happening this week here in Las Vegas, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. But for right now, that's it. Again, go to the comments and tell me if you agree, disagree, couldn't care less, or if it's your thing like it is my thing, because it's my jam for sure. All right, I want to dedicate this show to Mike Wallach. Who the hell is he, is what you're saying. Mike Wallach is also known as Northern Lights. Remember, Chili Billy McDonald was my honoree right at the end of the show. Mike is somebody that's helped us out tremendously for many years. I don't talk to him as much as I used to, but every time something comes on regarding the 49ers, I think of him. He lives up in Northern California, and I was just listening to some Niners talk earlier, so I thought of him, and I wanted to give him a shout-out. And with that, we're out of here. Do not just take up space on planet Earth. Go out and be a champion.